gods or the gods on Mount Olympus, the anthropomorphic. Anthropomorphic means having the shape of a human being. The gods that look like human beings, who can be shapeshifters, but their original form is apparently human. They're anthropomorphic. They live on Mount Olympus and they're always bickering. They're always arguing. One god sleeps with some goddess who's married to another god. There's a lot of people cheating on each other. It's like a big soap opera. They get into wars. Zeus is angry at Apollo one week. Hera is angry at Rhea the next week. It's complete madness up there with the Olympian gods. They bicker quite a bit. So Socrates knowingly asks, hey, Euthyphro, do the gods ever disagree? And Euthyphro responds, oh yes. You bet your sweet Greek ass, Socrates. Better believe it. And Socrates then asks, are some of these disagreements, or are these disagreements intense? And Euthyphro said, yes. Is it because they disagree over important matters? Euthyphro? If you're going to go to law school, pay attention. Are these disagreements intense? Euthyphro answers yes. Socrates then asks, is it because they disagree over important matters? Right? If you have an intense disagreement, it's because it's something important. If you have an intense disagreement with Alfred or with Billy, it's because you guys or gals are disagreeing over something important. Is it because they disagree over important matters? Asked Socrates. For example, they disagree on what is just or pious or right and wrong. And Euthyphro says yes. Well, says Socrates, if what is pious is what the gods like, right? That's the first thing Euthyphro says up there. Piety is what the gods like. Well, says Socrates, if what is pious is what the gods like, but the gods disagree about what is pious, then won't one and the same action be at the same time both pious and impious? In other words, if the gods disagree about what is holy, but holiness is what they like, but they disagree, then one particular action performed by you or by me or by whomever, or by whomever, will be both pious and impious, because one group of gods is going to look on and say, that's a good action, that's pious. But since the gods disagree, another group of gods is going to look on and object and say that's impious. So in a nutshell, Socrates is saying this. But Euthyphro, if what is pious, is what the gods like, but the gods disagree on what piety is, then won't one and the same action be both pious and impious? And Euthyphro responds, yes. And Socrates says, but I did not ask you to talk to me about what is pious and impious. I simply asked, what is piety? I'm a slow typer, I know. There we go. But I did not ask you to talk about what is both pious and impious. I simply asked, what is piety? So the first objection here from Socrates is that the conversation is going off topic. It's going off topic. It's not what I asked him. I asked you simply, what is piety? I didn't ask you to talk to me about actions with dual moral values, right? Furthermore, says Socrates, if what you say is true, then your own action of turning your father in for murder then won't your own action, of turning in your father for murder be both pious and impious. Right? If the gods disagree about what piety is, right? If the gods disagree, as Euthyphro claims, about what piety is and justice is, and they have these intense disagreements over these important matters, and what is pious is what the gods like, then Euthyphro's own answer own action, action of turning his father in for murder is going to be both pious and impious, holy and unholy. But then what's so special about it? If your action is holy and unholy, then why do it? Because if it's both, it's none. One quality or one property will cancel out the other. Then why do it? Asked Socrates. Right? If your action is just as good as it is bad, why do it? So, Euthyphro's second definition fails on two grounds. First, it takes the conversation off topic. We wind up talking about what is both pious and impious, which is not what Socrates wanted to hear about or learn about. Second, as I just said, since the gods disagree, according to Euthyphro, and piety is what they like, according to Euthyphro himself, then since some gods are going to like his action of turning his father in for murder, the action will be pious. But since some gods are not going to like it, it's going to be impious, so they don't like it. And this is how the second definition fails. Are there any questions before I continue? Is it making some sense? Good. Don't forget, you don't interrupt me. You don't interrupt me. At this point in the dialogue, Plato and Adeimantus and Glaucon show up. Hey, look, Socrates is asking Euthyphro what piety is, starting everything. What did he say first? Ask him. Oh, okay. What was Socrates' rebuttal? Oh, I see. Okay. I'm going to make this into a bestseller. By the way, Plato's books sell all over the world. People understand this all over the world. I know that a lot of you think that there are tremendous differences between the cultures. There aren't tremendous differences between the cultures. We have more in common than we don't. People in Japan read this, they understand it. People in Africa read this, they understand it. It's transcultural. It goes beyond the borders. Beyond the cultural borders, if you will. We have the same concepts all over the world. Nelson Mandela was talking at the United Nations years ago. And he said, South African, of course. And he said, we want justice in South Africa. Everyone understood what he meant. Okay. Not precisely, because it's difficult to define, but we all have the same concept. When Nelson Mandela from South Africa says, I want justice, the Australian ambassador isn't saying, what the hell are you talking about? There must be some South African concept. I don't understand anything he's going to say. No. When Nelson Mandela, a South African, says, I want justice, the Japanese man understands him. Somewhat. The Australian guy understands. Maybe the English don't want to understand, right? Back then, right? But you know what I mean? we have the same concepts. So yes, there are differences between the cultures, but there are similarities too. Otherwise, we would not be able to communicate. But we do. Right. So at this point, Socrates is torturing, so to speak, poor Euthyphro. Euthyphro is dejected, despondent, gave another answer that doesn't work. But then the light bulb comes on for a second, and he says this. I put the third attempt. Right. He said it like this. What is pious is what all of the gods like. It's a better answer. It's still bad, but it's better. Because by inserting all, he is no longer vulnerable to the objection that Socrates raised when Socrates considered the preceding definition. So look, he's saying, listen, Socrates, I know they have their disagreements, but they don't disagree all of the time. And when they all like something, that thing is pious. All right? There, I did it. Now praise me. Extol the name of Euthyphro. At this point in the dialogue, Socrates doesn't directly attack this definition. What he does is to ask, I mean, he will, but he puts it on the back burner, so to speak. What he does instead is to ask Euthyphro a new question. A new question, the form of which is going to be familiar to those of you who have been paying attention. So Socrates asks Euthyphro this. All right, because all of it. There it is. You're familiar with this question. Now you know where we got it from. We lifted it from Socrates. So when some clever skeptic, cynic, asks the divine command theorist, is what is it? Is something moral because God wills it, or does He will it because it's moral? He gets it. He or she gets it from this dialogue. Yes, Natalie. Natalie Rodriguez, do you have a question? fell asleep on the keyboard.
No, sorry, I clicked it by accident.
Oh, okay. No problem. Of course, once again, right? If Euthyphro goes with the first alternative, right, or the first option, or the first disjunct, the pious is pious because all of the gods like it. Then nothing is really pious, holy, or moral, right? Not really. Suppose that honoring your mother and father is the right thing to do because the gods like it. Then in and of itself, the action isn't the right thing to do. Okay. Let's go back to aesthetics, or the theory of art or beauty. If some painting is beautiful because the people like it, then the painting is not really beautiful. Right? If some painting is beautiful simply because people like it, then there's no beauty in the painting. The beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Right? If some statue is beautiful simply because onlookers like it, then the statue is not really beautiful. And if some action is pious or holy simply because the gods like it, then the action is not really in and of itself holy or pious. If some action is moral simply because the gods like it, then the action in and of itself, intrinsically, objectively, is not moral. Similarly, nothing would really be wrong. It's just that the gods don't like it. So, for example, if what is immoral is immoral simply because the gods don't like it, if what is immoral simply because God doesn't like it, then there's really nothing wrong with beating up your sister with a sledgehammer for the fun of it. Nothing wrong. It's just frowned upon. But the action is not really immoral. Not really. It's just immoral because God doesn't like it, or the gods don't like it. So if you go along with if you go along with the first part, the pious is pious simply because the gods like it, then nothing is really pious or impious. Right? Nothing is really moral or immoral. The action of beating up your sister with a sledgehammer for the fun of it is immoral. Why? Because God doesn't like it. Is that why? Yes. Oh, so then there's nothing in the action that makes it immoral. Because if there were something in the action that made it immoral, then when you explain to me why it's immoral, you would mention something in the action that makes it immoral, but you did not mention anything in the action that makes it immoral. You mentioned an observer. So the action in and of itself is neutral. It has no moral value. That's one of the problems with subjectivism, right? If morality is subjective, then there's nothing really wrong with genocide. Nothing. Or slavery. Nothing wrong with it. Not really. It's just that people don't like it. What's wrong with why is slavery immoral? Oh, God doesn't like it. Also, then if there were no God, it would be okay. Well, if there were no God, it wouldn't have a value. It would be neither moral nor immoral. It would, whatever you want it to be. But we think there's something really wrong with it, you see. There's a reason why people are objectivist in ethics and in morality. There's a reason why. You know, there has to be something really wrong with stir-frying a baby that's alive for the fun of it. There has to be something wrong with that objectively. If there isn't, then I don't understand anything. It cannot be the case that that action in and of itself is neither moral nor immoral. That's unacceptable. Natalie, question? Rodriguez, is your cat on the keyboard? Okay.
Hi, no, it's just that it stayed like that. Sorry.
Yeah. Try to put your hands behind your back or something.
Okay, we'll do.
So that's one of the problems with subjectivism in ethics. Right? Some of us believe that certain things really are wrong. And they're not wrong because someone says so. They really are wrong. Euthyphro agrees. So Euthyphro is going to go along with this. That's Euthyphro's answer. Socrates, he says, all of the gods like something because it's pious to begin with, right? Let's put that in there to make it clearer.